Welcome to another exciting episode of This Week in Indies. We've got a great topic this week as we talk about how writing changes for each of us. Will it forever be a hobby or is it a business? When does it go from one to the other? We'll chat about those questions and more as we sit down at the round table with a knowledgeable group of creatives. Then up on deck this week, C.L. Cannon with Fiction Atlas Press brings us our Indie Connection, featuring indie books similar to What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. And finally, for the final 5 minutes today, we hang out with author and creative S.M. Hillman as he brings us a first glimpse of his latest release. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, maybe some popcorn too, and get ready for an exciting show. Here's your host for this episode, Madilynn Dale. Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. And for those who are in another part of the world, happy Monday, I guess. Time zones are so crazy. I am excited to be back with these authors today. We've got a great topic, and I know we're going to have so many good things to say about both having writing as a hobby and as a business. But before I bring everybody in, I want to mention that if you are watching on Facebook, send a star to let our hosts and producers know how much you appreciate what they do here at Go Indie Now. Every time you contribute, you get entered into our season prize package drawing with gift cards, swag, and more. And you guys do not want to miss that opportunity. Also, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't, especially if this is the first time you're coming to join us. Our channel has so many great things to offer, and there's always a bit of humor and entertainment that ties into it. But I'm Madilynn Dale. I'm going to be leading our chat today. You can check out all of my work at my website, thechaptergoddess.com. But enough about me. Let me bring in our fantastic guest for the day. Here's our beautiful cast for the day, guys. I'm so excited for you guys to be back on. We're going to go around and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about who you are, what you write, and where they can find you. We're going to start here with Sean.
I'm Sean. I'm S.M. Hillman professionally. I write speculative fiction. You can find almost everything at thewickedboys.com. And I'm very excited about my new release, but we'll talk about that later.
Hey, y'all. I'm Bob, and Bob Magoo, talesbybob.com. I write redneck wizard fantasy. This is the most recent book. Came out in March. So, yeah, go check it out. The Jubal County Saga.
Yes.
Hey guys, I am Courtney Cannon, aka CL Cannon. Do lots of things here on Go Indie Now, like the Indie Connection and the monthly marketing tip. And sometimes I write fantasy and sci-fi. My latest release is Ink and Incantation, and I'm excited about this today.
Miss Karina.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I can't see myself on screen. Hello, everyone. I am Karina Gantus. I am an author with 14 fiction books. You can find me everywhere. Just Google my name, Yahoo my name. I'm also author assist, and I'm the host of Behind the Pen TV show. And I'm also the graphic designer for Go Indie Now.
Woo! She does some amazing work, you guys. We definitely appreciate having her on our team and everything she does for us. But let's check out who's hanging out with us in the chat. We've got Anita here. She's one of our special honored viewers, and we love having her on the show. And then Courtney's breaking the fourth wall. So guys, let's get to it. Who all started out with their writing being just a hobby? And we've got Karina and Bob joining the fourth wall breaking as well. So, but yeah, who started out with writing just their hobby, or did you go into it knowing it was going to become a business?
I think I definitely was a hobby. I started writing when I was just like a little kid. I like wrote poetry and submitted that to like literary journals and things. And I really started off with like gargoyles fan fiction, so like stuff like that. And then eventually, once I got older and I needed a way to support myself, the dream was always to be an author, but I never really thought it was in reach until self-publishing sort of came about. And then I was like, you know what, I can make this a business. And then since then I have treated it as a business.
Yes. And we're talking like gargoyles, like
the show. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I love that
amazing.
show.
That was one of my favorites.
Yes.
So for me, I kind of view it as like there are two phases. You know, in high school, I loved to write. I would write one-page stories that were essentially just shaggy dog tales. That, you know, the whole thing is just to build up to a terrible pun. And so then I kind of got to college and got busy. You know, marriage, divorce, all that jazz, and kind of forgot all about how much I love writing. And then right as I was finishing grad school, I decided to just try NaNoWriMo on a lark and finished it. And I was like, hey, you know, I've got all this stuff. It'd be a shame for it to just sit here. And I immediately started trying to get the stories in anthologies. It was a short story collection. And I pretty much instantly was treating it as a business.
Ooh. Sean or Karina, who wants to go next?
Okay. So, ironically, I started writing. So I started writing when I was 10. The idea of, you know, the big idea that you'd be a novelist, and actually want to be a mystery writer, which I do not want to be a mystery writer today, but maybe one day. And where I really got started writing a lot was fan fiction for another hobby. I like to do a lot of miniature space battle stuff. And so I would do fan fiction for a game called Starfleet Battles. And I even submitted a story to their periodical as well. So that's where I kind of got started. I think, though, the plan, once I got to college, and people started saying, you know, you're good at writing, is writing would be the retirement plan, would be the, okay, I'll work at whatever I'm going to work at for a certain amount of time. And then by that time, you know, one of the big traditional publishers would have recognized my brilliance and thrown a lot of money at me. So that's changed a bit. But I'm reluctantly, but also enthusiastically looking at it as a business now, trying to balance that passion with the need to, you know, pay your taxes and get all your ducks lined up in a row.
All right, Karina, your turn to go there.
Okay, so I started off like many authors do, stars in my eyes. I'm going to be an international best-selling author. They're going to be buying my books in the bookstores, and agents will be having arguments over who wants me, like you do. Yeah, like you do. So it started off hoping it was going to be a business, and that I could live off of my earnings, my royalties. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out like that. It's not a hobby. I do take it seriously. I will continue writing. I will continue publishing. If an agent wants to get in touch with me, great. If a publisher wants to take one of my self-published books on, fantastic. But for me, the business is it was still with writing, but not with my books. That's not where my business is. That's not where I make my money.
I just wanted to quickly add, Sean talking about writing for, you know, gaming, basically. That was actually the first novel I ever tried to write. Sean was basically a Warhammer Fantasy fan fiction novel where the dwarves fix every wrong that was ever done.
Nice.
That was my 10th grade project.
Nice. That's awesome, because that's a great way to kind of get pulled, like to let your creativity pull you into the writing world.
Yeah.
So what would you say, you guys, was the biggest decision for you to convert it from being more hobbyish to a business?
For me, it was I like to collect useless degrees, and so my undergraduate is in anthropology, and my master's is in music industry. And this may come as a great shock, but there's not a ton of jobs in either of those fields in Alabama. And so, since I didn't want to move out of Alabama, I was kind of stuck. Once you've applied to every place in Alabama, if they don't take you, you're kind of done. And so, unfortunately, I just wrapped up that music industry degree when I kind of rediscovered my passion for writing. And for me, it was like, well, this is really what I would like to do for a living, rather than these other things that I can't seemingly do for a living that are also passions of mine. And this was the one that I could control. I can't control. They don't just let you go do bootleg anthropology out and digging in people's fields. So I decided pretty early on, like this was the thing I could, in some degree, control, and I am a mild control freak. So this kind of synced up perfectly for me.
Hmm.
I think for me was getting involved in the indie RPG design space, where once the PDF came along and there were platforms where you could either sell it yourself or sell it through someone, that sort of sparked in me the idea that, well, wait a minute, if I can do this with a role playing game, I could do it with a short story, I could do it with a novel. It took a long time for me to sort of collect all the data I needed to do that, but fact was that was the beginning of me realizing that I could go a non-traditional route to getting myself published. Although at the time, and I think still to some degree, there's a stigma attached to self-publishing. But I don't care about that, at this point. And I'm just ready to go full forward with that. But yeah, it was seeing other places where self-publishing and independent publishing were taking hold that really kind of sold it for me.
Yeah, and I'll just building off that because Sean and I are the same person seemingly. Um, my first real foray, I don't count it quite as much, but very much like Sean, I came into D&D in the heady days of the initial open gaming license, and me and my buddies tried to start a D20 company, and I will say that the stigma on self-publishing is far less in the indie RPG space. The indie RPG space is super supportive. I mean, everyone in there is self-publishing essentially, um, and so it's I think coming out of that space made me more apt to try and do the more traditional fiction writing as a business.
Hmm.
For me, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Karina.
Okay. For me, it was seeing that other self-published authors could make a living from this, and then working with my own clients, the payments that go out, the payments that go in, the promotion you have to do, the marketing. It is a business. There's no way of getting around it. It is a business. You are an entrepreneur. Okay, you are whether you want to think of it as a business. I mean, you've got taxes. Okay, you don't pay a lot depending on how much you sell or whatever. You've got all the cons that you go to that you can get reimbursed for, some of them. So it is a business. You are an entrepreneur, and I think if you want to take your writing seriously, you need to think of it as a business. That's the only way that you're going to get your name and your books out there and make enough money to actually live off your hobby.
Yeah.
For me, I came to publishing and being more of a business with my writing out of necessity, because after I had my second son, they injured my back. I had to have 7 epidurals, and it still didn't work. I still had natural childbirth, but it caused nerve damage in my back. And I had a factory job before that, and I just could not work anymore. Could not work a traditional job anymore because of my back. And I already had scoliosis, and then I found out that I have a sort of arthritis in my back, and it just wasn't possible for me to do really hard physical labor anymore. And so I started having to just freelance things. So I started writing articles for different news sites and on Fiverr and just wherever I could get money. And then eventually one of my friends from fandom, because I've participated in fandom for like ever in all kinds of fandoms, but one of my Harry Potter friends decided that she was going to write a romance novel. And while that's not really my thing, I'm not really a romance person, I saw that she could self-publish her book and how successful she was. I helped her edit it, and I helped her do her first cover for it, because I did have those skills from being in fandom and from running fan sites and, you know, getting into graphic design and web design and things like that. And so eventually I was like, well, if she can do it, so can I. And so I submitted my first short story after that. And then I've been writing ever since. And I decided to take all of my skills that I had learned from fandom and put them into my business. And so that kind of goes along with me starting my author services business and also getting more into like the author business side, just because I saw that it was possible. Before, everybody was like, well, you need an agent and you have to go through all this and you have to have this much money. But with self-publishing, you could just start from nothing and kind of work your way up. And I was really fortunate to already have a lot of skills that authors needed to have, as far as, you know, making book covers and formatting and things like that.
Again, I think me and CL Cannon are twins. Yeah, we what I've learned over the 30 years of being an author, my skills again helped other authors with their promotion and marketing, design, and now I do podcast, TV show, and it's all to do with books and writing. And it's knowing where you're needed in that area where people need help with their marketing. People need help with social media. They're so busy writing books that they don't have time to promote their own books. And of course, they think of it as a business, so they're going to hire someone who can do that for them. And so, as CL Cannon said, that having that author business, I started it again the same reason, because I was ill and I couldn't work a full-time job. And I was doing my own book trailers and narrations, and everyone was complimenting them. And then I had authors asking me to do theirs. And so Author Assist grew from there, and 30 services plus, and 15 years now, and it's something else. But it's I think the same with Courtney, that we were writing and we were publishing our books, then something happened in our life that took us on another path. And it's that path that gave us our business and used the skills and talents that we have to help other authors, but still writing our own work as well.
Anything to add on that, guys, before I ask this question that kind of pertains to that? I will say A.L. Mingle has joined us in the chat as well. I didn't want to interrupt like our thing. I do like, would you guys say the income is what defines it as a business for you?
No, because you need to treat it as a business before you have income. I would say. I mean, you don't have to, obviously. But I would say the single best piece of advice that I was given pretty early on was treat it as a part-time job. And you've got to, if you're serious about this, if you want to get that first book done, you got to treat it like a part-time job. You've got to be dedicated, set time aside to write, things like that. But then if you want to make any money off of said book, you're going to have to do marketing. You're going to spend, if you're in the self-pub space, you're going to spend, I spend more time doing back-end stuff than I spend writing at this point, be it marketing, designing different things, doing cons, panels, things like that, doing stuff like this. And so you really do, treating it like a business is what's going to separate you from being just one of the millions of people that have a book idea instead of a book.
I agree. It's really about how serious you are. When you have something as a business or as like your part-time job, you're going to focus more on quality and on making it the best that it can be, instead of just like, oh, this is just my hobby, I do this on the side, and you don't think about it as much. When you're in a business mindset, you are focused on every moving part of your business and making it just spectacular so that you will make money because it's for profit. And that in itself just makes your content better. And I don't know exactly how to put it into words. It just being treating it as a business makes the product better, and I think it also leads to a better experience for your readers, and it helps you network. There's so many different advantages to treating it more like a business than just as something that you do on the weekend.
Yeah, you have to spend money to make money. If you want to get your book out there, if you want it to be the best it can be, so you're paying for a professional artist for your cover, a professional editor, professional formatter. You're making sure it's got the advertising and marketing to make sure that launch is the best. You've written that book. It deserves to be launched correctly, deserves to be polished, but it costs money. And unless you do it correctly, then you won't get the sales. I mean, if you do it correctly, the sales will come in. And once the sales come in, then you start making your money.
I guess I look at it absolutely like business, but I guess the way I sort of frame it is, are you a professional, right? Is your writing, are you among the profession for writers? And of course that goes along with the business aspect of it, but there's also how you act in public. I mean, how you act in private too, because people will talk. But when you're at cons and when you're on things like this, you need to be cognizant of the fact that people are watching and people are seeing you, and the more professional you are. Not that you can't have quirks. I mean, I got plenty of them. But I think if you act in a professional manner, if you take it seriously, I think is probably the underlining idea here. You're more likely to be successful. Certainly, I try to do that. I think about that in those terms. That's much more of a strength for me than necessarily marketing, but you have to do all of it, or pay someone to do it for you, to be successful. Sure.
Yeah, if you think that authors aren't gossiping amongst themselves about the people that they work with on the regular, you're sadly mistaken. I was just a presenter at a self-publishing conference, and us authors that were there as presenters, we sat there and talked. And if you think that occasionally it came up like, oh, this guy, oh yeah, I love working with him, or oh, you didn't hear what happened? Oh, well, you need to know this, and I mean that kind of stuff happens. And like you are your brand as an author, and how you present yourself in public it very much is marketing. When I'm outside of Alabama, my shtick is, oh my God, who let me out of Alabama? I actually love Alabama, but I will dog it out all day because it's funny and that's kind of my brand. And it all builds into my marketing.
Yeah, those are great. And A.L. Mingle brings up a great topic here too that I want to ask your thoughts on, guys. He says, I also recommend establishing an LLC to protect your creative assets as well as for tax purposes. Once that happens, it truly becomes a business. How do you guys feel about the LLC concept and idea? Do you feel like you can do a business without it, or is it better to have that LLC?
I would say it really does depend. So it partly depends on your state. I'll say, for example, Alabama hates poor people, and so you are required to file your taxes every month, and even if you've had no sales, you have to report sales tax. You have to report zero, and if you don't report, they will fine you $150 every month.
Oh,
So you could
wow.
actually be negative 150 on a month just because you didn't go put a zero on a website. And so I caution people like in Alabama is like, look, You need to hold off until the point that you're actually about to start getting sales in, because if you forget, you just lost 150 bucks. Also, in my personal case, I'm not an LLC. I'm a sole proprietorship, because I've met with the Small Business Administration, which is an excellent resource that is located near you, wherever you are in America. There's one within an hour, I can just about bet you. And their whole job is giving you advice on how to open your small business. And the people I met with at the Small Business Administration here in Alabama told me that in our state, it's really not worthwhile. It's not worth the time and effort it takes to get an LLC until you have around $50,000 a year in income. And wouldn't that be nice? So when I'm a mid 5-figure author, I will be switching to an LLC. But for right now, a sole proprietorship, I think it's called a pass through in some states, is all I needed.
Say note to self: do not move to Alabama to try to start a business.
Yeah, no, they don't like it.
Yeah. Anybody else? You want to add some thoughts on that? Because I'm working on getting my LLC right now. Like, the process is almost done. Like, the paperwork, I think, is being sent in next week. So, yeah.
I agree with Bob. It really depends on your state. It depends on how much money you're making and what kind of business you have. If you're just an author, especially just kind of wait until you have some sales. For something like me and Karina, where we have a whole bunch of different streams of income coming in from our author services, then that was really important to get an LLC in my state, which is Virginia. That was the best choice for me. But sometimes it's an S corp. Sometimes there's there's so many things to taxes. It's best to find a professional to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. And most of the time it's free to find this information. I've actually helped a couple other people set up their businesses. And like Bob said, like, it depends on what state they're in or what country they're in. There's different laws for everything. Just make sure that you have checked and double checked, and you know exactly what is expected of you once you do incorporate.
Yeah, definitely. The research is important. Karina, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, was in Greece. So it was a bit different to the US. I'm now in the UK, so I've got to find out how things work differently over here. But for the books, for the sales, I wasn't making, I'm still not making enough to pay taxes on them, which it's not about the books, people, so don't look at me like that. The books are fabulous, all award-winning. No, I just don't have time promoting my own work because I'm promoting other people. So people don't see my books or hear about them until I do things like this. And maybe I'll get a sale from today. Who knows?
Yeah. Go buy Karina's books, guys. Buy at least one of all of our books. So, yeah. Don, do you want to add any thoughts on that?
I think it's obviously going to be important to stay ahead of the law in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
So my plan is I'm already looking into how I'm going to structure that, because I'm hoping to add in editing services as well in the next 2 months. So that, like CL had mentioned, that's going to be important, not just as a writer, but you're also doing other things. And so, yeah, I mean, it's quote unquote a necessary evil, but it's smart, and it's another step towards having that mindset that what you're doing is real. And I think that too, that may be important because people, and I say people, I mean friends and family who are supportive, but a lot of times they don't take you seriously until they see some quote unquote results, or they see things like businesses set up. And I just think that from a legal standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, getting that all together is a good idea.
Yeah, and don't forget that even though you're talking about paying taxes, you're also being able to get refunded on stuff that you use for your business. You know, places that you go, travel expenses, ink for the printer. You know, things that you don't think about. You can actually get money back from when you're legit and you have you take your writing seriously, and it is a business. So yeah, there's a lot you can get reimbursed for. So don't forget about that part.
I forget that you can write off like business expenses. So
Yeah.
that's a great
There
thing
you
that you
go.
brought that up, Karina. And AL adds that LLC laws do vary by state. I know that I must manage my own as a proprietor, and I must make an annual report to the state as well as complicated taxes, but that's life running a business. He also says, I also have a professional CPA who stays on top of compliance so I can focus on the creativity. And I'm actually kind of working, I guess technically I am not kind of working with a CPA because it's through a friend of my husband's through his business. He offered to help set us up. So the perks of having friends, right, guys?
Yeah.
But what would you guys say was the biggest challenge in turning your writing into a business? I know we're all still working to make more income with our business and whatnot, but what was the biggest challenge at first for you?
The frustration of the business side. Um, I'm a little jealous of those who can like pay someone to do all that other stuff, and so they can focus on their writing. Um, and I'll admit there were times where I would throw internal tantrums like, no, 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 I don't want to have to do this. Let me just be the writer. I want everything else to magically happen, right? I make the words and they magically market themselves, but it doesn't work that way. So getting over that frustration personally was probably the biggest one for me.
For me, it's having the time to, like I say, promote and market my own books. I don't have the time to do it. I'm going to make the time. Things are going to change. I've just got to get more situated now in the UK, sort myself out, and I'm going to make time for that because it's important. I've done all that work. It's what 30 years of writing now, 14 books, another one on the way. Got to finish it soon. I promise I will. They need to get out there. People need to know who I am. They need to read my work. And to do that, you need to market and promote yourself. And I think if you don't do that, you're not going to have a business because you're not going to make money. And if you don't make money, then it's just a hobby, isn't it?
I think for me, so I kind of went about it a slightly different way than a lot of folks. Yeah, I just saw Ron's comment. Yes, Ron. Ron is correct. My biggest challenge is the beard. Keeping it trimmed and tidy. But no, I went about things a slightly different way. I apologize if you can hear. We just got a new cat and it's yelling in the background. He's coming to terms with living in a new space. Anyway, um, no, I went. I started writing short stories and pretty much instantly realized that you cannot make enough money for writing short stories for it to be a career. And so I then pretty seriously geared up on novels and novellas. But in the interim, I spent a lot of time freelancing on Fiverr, much like CL did, and I have a ton of different little revenue streams that early on I spent a lot of time kind of building up. And for me, the first real struggle was trading the money that I'm getting now for the money I could potentially be getting in the future. And so, making $500 extra a month on Fiverr is great, but the time I was spent doing that was time taken away from actually writing my novels, and that to me that's the goal. It's getting my books out there, not other people's whatever. And so to me, thinking long term was the first real struggle because I'm just a poor boy from Alabama, and an extra $500 a month is nice. And there was a long time there between where I quit working on Fiverr and where I'm at now, where I, have $500 months off of book sales and things like that that aren't Fiverr based. So that in between time was a real struggle.
Yeah. which Bob has sparked a conversation of beards going on in the chat, which I must say, Ron may be a bit jealous of the beard. So, and he says, I can easily grow a very embarrassing beard.
Well, Ron, I can't grow a garden, so we each have our own strengths.
Oh man, maybe you guys should challenge each other. Bob, you should try to grow a little mini garden, and Ron can grow a beard. So
I'm too pale to be in the sun.
Well, guys, before we move on to the next question, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this week's Indie Connections. So hang tight, guys, and check out these awesome books.
Hey guys, C.O. Kanan here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. The first book I have for you is called Beautiful Undone by Melissa Polk. It's been nearly 10 years since Quaid last heard from Victor, his childhood friend and eventual lover. Resigned to a life of work and drudgery, the last thing Quaid could have anticipated was an ominous summons from Victor to attend him at his home, Serial. With little thought to the consequences of his actions, Quaid makes immediate plans to leave the city. After all, no matter the time or distance between them, Quaid could never deny Victor anything. Victor, a powerful and reclusive mage, is now the lord of Serial. With all the years he's spent hiding from the world, he's no longer able to imagine a life outside the boundaries of his lands. His every moment is devoted to untangling the curse wrapped around his sister, compounding her already failing health. Unbeknownst to the world at large, the Tarn at Serial acts as a gateway to myriad alternate worlds. That gateway has been breached by Tristan Armani, a power-hungry duke from another dimension, a duke who happens to be Victor's mirror image, and seeks to control more than just his own world. All that stands between Serial and Tristan is Victor's magic. Without knowing the full extent of Tristan's goals, Victor is desperate to find a way to save both his world and his sister. For Tristan, no act is too depraved and no step too far. He will stop at nothing to see his mysterious plans through to the end. The second book I have for you is called Tales of the Macabre by Newton Webb. Newton's macabre tales span continents, with stories from the 17th century to the distant future, from Nepal to South Africa. Some of the stories contain elements of humor, of love, of passion, but all of them are imbued with soul-shattering terror. As you travel through time and space, you will witness horrific consequences, mind-bending paranormal activities, and good people who took the wrong turn. Each story is unique and offers a different perspective. So cradle your drink and get comfy, because you are about to pierce the veil and witness the true nature of horror. The book I have for you is called Whatever Remains of Us in the End by Brandon Baker. Lee knew most of the old Maxim place, of course. Everyone in Lincolnshire had. Plagued by superstitious rumors, the woods surrounding the home were supposedly haunted, and the house itself inhabited by a witch. But he never believed the rumors. However, after a home invasion plot gone horribly wrong, Lee finds himself on a mission to uncover the secrets of the Maxim home, and learns that there might be something more to the rumors after all. And the last book I have for you is called Love Letters to Poe, Houses of Usher, because if you didn't know, What Moves the Dead is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Whisper the words, The Fall of the House of Usher, and you conjure strange imagery. A brooding black tarn, sullen siblings, the frenzy of undeath. This famous story, published by Edgar Allan Poe in September 1839, continues to hold sway in our society over 180 years later. This volume is composed of 30 stories and poems inspired by this great Gothic work. Explore the vaults of the House of Usher, and this haunted place will reveal to you its horrifying secrets. When at last you reach the end of this harrowing journey, you'll be rewarded with a deepened appreciation for the original tale. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye!
Some fun conversations happening over here in the chat about the beard still. Ron is definitely sharing about his Lady Goat has an impressive beard. And then Anita mentioning one of the books from the Indie Connection. And then that cover was so good by Bob and much better than Ron's goat's beard. Yes. So when it comes to our business as writers, how do you guys, let me add Karina back in before I ask this. How do you guys organize yourself to continue carrying out your writing as a business?
For me, I dedicate, I set fixed goals. Like, so for me, I currently operate 5,000 words a week is my writing goal. And then literally all other time is for the business. Like once I would much rather be writing than doing anything else that is involved in this. So part of it is a goal, but part of it is also a limitation. Like get to 5,000 words, and I break it into 1,000 word chunks, and then any other time is spent marketing, designing, marketing images, what have you.
Spreadsheets. My whole life is spreadsheets, so I just do spreadsheets of everything that needs to be done. I have to-do lists. I don't have any right here. Yeah, wait. I've got an Otter to-do list that I never write anything on. I've bought all kinds of stationery for stuff like this, but it's just usually just digital spreadsheets, notes app on my phone, things like that, and just trying to stay motivated with all the other crap that I've got going on to get some words down.
I leave
yeah.
the. Sorry. Bob.
Oh, I was going to say I live for spreadsheets. So yes.
I leave the weekends for myself, and I'd rather, as Bob said, I'd rather be writing than spend the time marketing and promoting the books, because my poor reader's been waiting quite a few years for this book to come out. I'm 80% the way through, and it really needs finishing. And so that is priority for me for any time that I do have, which isn't much at the moment. But I will have once I sort myself out. I will get the book finished, and then once that's finished, then it will be heavy on marketing for not just that book, for the others as well.
Right now, because a little bit of this is new to me, so I'm trying to do business stuff in the mornings, and then work, and then the evenings, because I run two sprints during the week. For the Writing Tribe, there's your plug, on Facebook. And so I try to write at night once everyone's gone to bed, except the cats, because the cats apparently think they need to help me write. So they try. So that's where I'm trying. That's what I'm trying right now. And I suspect my life will also be spreadsheets very soon. So I'm right there with you.
I have to say
The real
mine
struggle, I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say, sorry, I was going to say the real struggle is getting the cats trained to help you actually do the writing. That's the step I'm on now. We're up to 3 cats, and the workforce is growing, but the productivity isn't where I need it to be yet. So that's step 2.
When you figure out that secret, let me know, because I have 4 cats, and all they like to do is sit in front of my screen, and I'm like, or lay on the mouse pad. I'm like, I can't do anything with you. You're gonna have to move. But my life is also switching to more spreadsheet like Courtney's, because I cannot keep up with all of my to-do lists. They disappear. So I try. But what would you guys say is your favorite thing about having writing as a business?
I love reading, and so writing just has always been a thing I love too. And so I get to do what I love, and if you can do what you love, why wouldn't you want to do that? To be able to provide for yourself and not have to go slave away like I used to have to at a factory all the time. When I had to work at the factory, I worked 10 to 12 hour days, sometimes 6 days a week. So I hardly ever saw my kids, and it was just backbreaking work. And now I get to sit in front of my computer, read a book as research for something else, and then make up stuff on my own and let other people see it. So it's kind of like the dream job.
Exactly, we're doing what we love doing, making money from it. For me, it's helping people. It's knowing that what I can do to help my clients, these authors, get their name out there and get those awards and get the best-selling up the Amazon ladder to best-selling status. It makes me feel great. I love what I do, and it's helping people, giving them the knowledge that I've got. To teach them how to do it themselves. Yeah.
For me, and I think Sean can relate to this, because we operate in similar circles. Is for me the thing that I have found that I love the absolute most. If I could do one job for the rest of my life, it would be to become just cult famous enough to be a guest at like any con I wanted to go to. So at this point, the books are the means to the end, and the end is I love doing panels and workshops at cons. Like I just love it so much. It's probably my favorite thing to do in the world. So getting opportunities like that, getting to guest at cons, getting to jump on panels, stuff like that, doing stuff like this. I love this kind of stuff so much. So just the networking with other authors and getting to do things like this is far and away my favorite thing. Everything else is work. This is the fun that the work generates.
Yeah, for sure. So Con Carolina is going to be my first convention as a guest coming up in early June, and that's going to be fun. I think for me, and Bob might feel this as well. I kind of want to. I kind of want to be well known enough as a good guest, but that they'll invite me not only to talk about writing stuff, but they'll also ask me to run a game in the gaming room at some point. So for me, it's sort of that two things I'd like to do, and I think it's interesting too. When I do also, I haven't got anything out at the moment, but I do also design games and role-playing games and stuff like that on the side. So there's a whole nother life aside from my writing life with that as well. So I'd love for them both to kind of work together so I could get invited as a gaming guest and as a writing guest.
I've just started in the gaming situation at D&D. I never would have thought I'd be doing that with me dice. And I'm loving it, and it does have something to do with writing because you're making up that story. You're being creative. You're being a storyteller when you're doing gaming, and so it's inspiration and motivation to actually get that pen out when you get home.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm a guest at Con Carolinas as well, Sean. So me and you need to hang out and figure out how we get, because I've done every con I go to. I tell them, hey, I'm an author. These are my books. Here's my website. But also, if you needed someone to run a Dread one shot on your gaming track, I'd love to do that for you. And I keep getting accepted as a guest as an author, and no one is letting me run one sheet RPG sessions, and that's the other thing I want to do. So Sean, me and you, we're going to brainstorm at Con Carolinas. We're going to figure out how we get this happening, because I'm right there with you.
I think that's a great idea. Looking forward to it.
Do networking. I love it.
Yes. All right, guys, our final question. If you could offer a bit of advice to somebody who is wanting to transition their writing from a hobby to a business, what tip would you offer them? I know there's a lot you can really share, but try to narrow it down.
I'm going to do a cop out and just say the best piece of, I've already said it, the best piece of advice that's ever given to me: treat it like a part-time job. Seriously. Like you obviously can't treat it as a full-time job. You're not there yet, but you got to treat it like a part-time job. Even down, if you need to, clock in and clock out.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm going to follow on with that even if you can't write short stories, or don't think you can write short stories, you can. I will say, following on from what Bob just said, as part of treating it like a job, take time to write shorts and submit them places. You won't always get feedback, but a lot of times you will get feedback from the editors. And I feel like that for me, and I kind of remember this now, was where I felt like I was becoming a professional after that first rejection. I'm like, look at me, I've got a rejection. Now I'm a real writer.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the process as well.
Yeah, these small stories and flash fiction that you can get into magazines, they lead on to people buying your novels and becoming fans of your work. So as well as the business aspect of marketing, promoting and getting your name out there, keep writing. That is my tip. Keep writing no matter what.
My tip is be realistic with your strengths and your weaknesses. Know what you can do very well and do it, and know things that you need to hire out for or that you need to research. And be observant, networking and watching other authors that are successful. Watch them and see what they do, and replicate it in your own way. Don't straight out copy them, but find a way to make that work for you and for your audience. And also know your audience. If you don't know who you're trying to sell your book to, then it's harder to sell it to them.
Those are all great. And I want to add that don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Like, write outside of your comfort zone so you can grow. Well, guys, any final thoughts you guys want to share before we go around and tell everybody where they can find you and whatnot before we turn over to the final five with Mr. S.M. Hillman?
I was just going to say that, building off what CL just said and talk about Fiverr earlier, my first bit of freelancing was, I'll write 500 words of whatever you want for $5, and I eventually upped it to 10. And I wrote the most bewildering assortment of bizarre items. And one, it trained me to write to a deadline, which was very valuable. It trained me to, accept feedback, because you have to do revisions for people. But also, I wrote so many things I would never have written otherwise, and I'm definitely a stronger writer for doing that. I just had to stop so I could, focus on writing my own books. But it was a lot of fun.
Nice. That's actually like a genius idea. So,
again, I'm kind of following from Bob, but there are plenty of places that do accept nonfiction, and like I did reviews for years for EN World, or N World, as they say, and that also helped me become a better writer. Writing a deadline, but also writing to a certain spec or to a certain number of words, which could be very important when you're trying to do short fiction, things like that. So yeah, I mean, any kind of writing that you can get into that pays you a little bit will be fantastic, and I highly recommend.
Agreed. All right, guys. Well, let's go around and tell our listeners and viewers where they can find your work. And if you want to spill a little bit about a book, you could do a brief shout out about that. We are going to start with Miss Courtney and work our way around.
Hey guys, you can find me at my link in bio, which is down there, and my website. And I actually pointed to it the right way this time. But I am on all social medias except for Snapchat, which I will never join because it's the devil. Then I'm actually going to be at a con here in 2 weeks in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be at the Imaginarium Book Festival, and I'm going to be there both days, Saturday and Sunday, on the 20th and the 21st. And I am also going to be one of the speakers on the first panel on Lit Talk on Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. So if you're going to be in the Washington, D.C. area, they have general admission tickets. They also have a big sticker scavenger hunt. There is a breakfast brunch thing going on. There's lots of cool events that they've got at this convention. It's mostly fantasy and sci-fi and features a lot of diverse authors. So check it out if you're going to be in that area.
Sweet. Miss Karina.
So I have a couple of speaking events coming up. Check out my Facebook page, Karina Gantus, to find out where they are. They're all virtual. Author Assist, if you need any help with your books, graphic design, marketing, social media, then get in touch. You'll also find me on Fiverr, and check out the podcast Behind the Pen and the TV show Behind the Pen, where I interview authors. And there is my book, Huntress. Pop out and get a copy if you love dark MC romance.
Sweet.
How we talked earlier about look at authors doing it better than you and copying them. I spent the whole time off screen practicing so I could be like CL and do it the right way this time. But you can follow me at, I still did it wrong. talesbybob.com. You can find me on most social medias that are worth a damn at Tales by Bob. I would say that if you really want the inside scoop on all things me, you should join my Discord channel. You can find links wherever you find me on social media. Me and a bunch of authors are in there, a bunch of fans, and we just talk about all manner of nerdery. That's the best place to hang out with me. And yes, I will be at Con Carolina is my next event. Not sure what panels I'll be doing yet. They haven't announced that, but come see me there in Raleigh. I think we'll go with that.
Sweet. All right, guys, before I turn it over for the final 5, I just want to mention you can find all of my stuff at thechaptergoddess.com. You can check out my books. You can follow along with my blog where I post creative spotlights on various creatives in the world, from musicians to authors to graphic designers, you name it. I've been expanding it. You can also keep up with things that are going on in my life because I post about different things related to my son, experiences we've done, hiking trips, things he's learned and how he's learning. There's a little bit of everything on the blog, and you can also subscribe to my newsletter there, which is the absolute best way to keep up with all things the Chapter Goddess and whatnot. But before I turn it over to Sean, I want to mention that we have a conversation, a cocktail coming up tomorrow with our amazing Vanessa Junta. I totally butchered her name. Sorry, Vanessa, if you see this. But she's going to be bringing on another guest that will be at Multiverse this fall. And if you have not gotten tickets to Multiverse, why the heck not? Many of us authors on the show today are going to be there. I got accepted as a guest. I don't think it's up on the website yet, but I completed that stuff the other day. So I'll be there this fall. I'll be at SoonerCon here in Oklahoma, Norman area this summer, kind of end of June, 1st of July. So you guys can come out and grab copies of my books, get them autographed, et cetera, you know. But enough about me. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. S.M. Hillman as he shares with us a bit about his books and whatever else he would like to tell us.
So you can find my blog and my writing at thewickedboys.com. One day you'll actually be able to read a Wicked Boys story, but they're all sort of in editing mode at the moment. So yes, the pre-orders for the ebook for The Language of Skeptics is live now. And The Language of Skeptics is a collection of what I call Dear Sean letters. 5 of the 6 stories are stories that have been rejected after multiple attempts to get them published. And I thought, you know, I have a bunch of these books around, or excuse me, I have a bunch of these stories around. I'm gonna put them together, and it's a collection, a little bit of horror, a lot of it of sci-fi, and some sci-fi horror in there as well. I didn't realize I was going to be a horror writer, but then one day I was. So let me go ahead and read to you an excerpt real quick of the first story in the collection called Sirocco. Anyone can decapitate a human, given enough time, and the right or very wrong instruments. Sanders didn't have the time, wrong instrument or no, and he didn't need to be careful. The bloodier the better, in fact. The burly killer hacked at the dead man's neck with an expensive butcher knife, sending skin and blood everywhere with each desperate chop. He heard something crack, and the overpriced knife broke, nearly cutting him as it warped and came undone by his amateur mauling. Frustrated, Sanders grabbed another knife from the block, this one bigger, and began to saw. The chef, the dead man, didn't seem to care about the decapitation. His big head rolled with each hit, and when Sanders was done, the body lay where it had fallen, a jagged hole at the top. Pieces of bone and spine lay in the blood, floating as in a viscous stream poured onto the floor. As Sanders stood up, he marveled at his artistry, taking a moment to admire his ability to follow orders and still have some fun. He lingered only a few seconds, though, posing for an invisible crowd, before he stepped away from the body and pulled off the clear plastic suit he had been wearing. Sanders wrapped the head in the plastic so as not to drip more blood and walked over to the large dispenser where the head and suit would drop into the fusion-fired incinerator. Using the dead chef's code, Sanders opened the hatch to the incinerator and dropped the package down the chute. Fixated on not leaving more evidence behind, Sanders never noticed the other figure in the room. As soon as the head wrapped in plastic disappeared, A ceramic sliver no bigger than a sewing pin entered Sanders' skull and came out through his left eye. The eye bulged and pus and blood emerged in short, seminal bursts. Sanders slid down, his big head getting caught on the incinerator's open hatch. Disposing of the weapon came first. The killer made a brisk path to the incinerator, dismantling the weapon as she moved. By the time she arrived, 5 easy to dispose of pieces lay in her hand. All dropped through the open door to the incinerator. None came close to touching Sanders' grotesque head. Next came Sanders, bending at the knees. The killer lifted the over-perfumed corpse into the incinerator by its feet and then slid down the chute. She grabbed a sanitary wipe from the nearby counter, wiped away some of the mess. After that, the door was closed, all the buttons pushed, and Emil Sanders, loser and thug for the head of the Cristolo gang, ceased to exist. Oh, they would find Sanders' blood on the floor in the incinerator panel, but nothing of the man would remain save the detritus of a terrible life. Good riddance. You can find the pre-orders for the Legend of Skeptics. The ebook is already up on Amazon, and for the paperback will be later this week. And as you know, it's always time to go indie now.